not many people realize that your state of mind, your mindset is a choice. You can choose to look at what you have and be thankful, or you can choose to look at what you don't have and be jealous and down on yourself and, the destructive behaviors that come along with that.
Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we could have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to help guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life through real estate investing. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. What is going on, Pathfinder Nation, and welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and I am here today with the one and only amazing, incredible TJ McGraw. Welcome to the show, sir.
Eric, man, thank you. That amazing and incredible. That's being very generous. I appreciate that. But thanks for having me on.
We are usually our own worst critic, so I think very less of myself. You might think less of yourself, but outside looking in, man, you got it going on. I love having folks on our show that have a story to tell that our listeners can learn from and motivate them to achieve their dream life. Now, for those that may not know TJ, he is a podcaster. He is an influencer, I would call. He is an agent out of South Atlanta, and he's crushing it. He's absolutely crushing it out there. And the only reason I have a podcast today is one day my wife and I went to lunch with TJ, and he's telling us all these things that he's doing. And he's like, I got a podcast. And I was like, wow, you got a podcast? And then we jumped on his podcast. We're on show number 19 at the Agent Mind podcast. Had a great time doing it. And I said, Tiffany, we could be podcasters too. And she said, are you sure you want to do that? Seems like a lot of work. I was like, well, I'm sure it'll be a lot of work, but my gosh, you get to hang out with folks. You get to share your story. You get to interview people sometimes if that's what your show is about, or you can do whatever you want to. And if people want to listen, subscribe. If they don't, next. So I call it the Tinder of education. Swipe right, swipe left. If you really want it, swipe left or right.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Well, I didn't know that the inspiration behind your motivation, put it that way, to get your podcast going. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm happy that I touched your life in that way.
You absolutely did. And we always knew that. I used to be a teacher. I was an educator for almost 10 years. And I really loved sharing with my students the art of music. I was a music teacher. And when I left that teaching space to be a full-time real estate investor, I was lacking something. I said, Tiffany, I'm going to have to teach one day. I don't know what I'll teach, but I need to teach something. And when we started going in this investing realm, and I was like, I could teach, mindset, because everyone out there is teaching some form of real estate investing. And there's a lot of people teaching mindset as well. But I wanted to have my shot at doing it and in my special way. And not everyone that teaches mindset does it the same way. So that's what we're doing here at the On Purpose Investor Podcast, is trying to inspire people to live with a sense of hyper-intentionality. I think you're going to learn a lot from TJ today about hyper-intentionality and how to chase your dreams and discover your why, create your roadmap, change your mindset, design your lifestyle, and set those big goals.
That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, Eric.
Oh, no, not at all. You're going to do great. This is going to be a great show, man. So let's dive right in. Enough of me talking. I've done a lot of it so far. I would like for our audience to get to know you just a little bit. What do you invest in? What do you do?
I call myself an investor. Number one, I started calling myself an investor before I even, just bought the house to flip. And the reason I did that is because you kind of have to step into roles before you can fake it till you make it. I hate that word because I didn't fake anything. But if I was going to be an investor, I had to act and think like one. So, and the first step is it sounds corny, but looking in the mirror and saying, I am a real estate investor. Why not me? Instead of like, how can I get this done? I'll never be able to do that. It's like, why not me? Why can't I do it? So I haven't done a lot of investing, and I was going to say that the podcast that you have here with you and Tiffany, you guys have done it. You've done a lot, and there's people out there that have podcasts that they're all over social media, and they haven't done even like a fraction of the stuff that you all have done. So the work you're doing, I don't want to sound corny, but the work you're doing is important because you have truth behind what you're saying, and you've been there, done that. So, if you're going to go, I mean, you wouldn't go learn how to be a car mechanic from a radiologist. You know what I mean? Like you're going to learn investing from an investor. So my area of expertise, or my wheelhouse, so to speak, is real estate, and it's on, the transaction side of being an agent. But it's funny how I ended up here. I started out my working career at 14 years old in the restaurant business, and I just stuck in that business for over 20 years. I got a culinary degree. I got a bachelor's degree in food and beverage management. I was running restaurants and doing all that. And but I would go to work and I would just dread walking in the door. I would just sit in my car and I'm like, I don't want to get out. Like the door handle of my car was so heavy. I'm like, something's got to change. So I started listening to, I've always been interested in investing and curious about it. Just never had the really guts to really do anything about it. But you get to a point where you're like, something's got to change. So, but let me revisit this investing dream that I've had that I've kind of stuffed down. And so I started listening to podcasts. I'm in South Atlanta. It took me about 40 minutes to get to work. So in the car, 40 minutes, that's without traffic. If you're familiar with Atlanta, oftentimes it was a lot longer than that. But I would listen to, Bigger Pockets and, anything I could kind of consume around real estate. And then I started to think, well, how am I going to do this? Cause this is when you're first starting out, you're like, what's the first thing you think of? Like, I don't have the money. I don't have the money to do this. I could never do this. I need to, all these rich people can go and invest, but I'm not, I need money to make wmoney. So I said, well, what's the best way I can do this? So I figure I need to change something. I want to get into real estate. So I'm going to get my real estate license. I can just close deals, sell real estate, and then I'll use that money to invest. And of course, as I learned that, being a real estate agent is, oftentimes you got to work. You got to put in the work. You got to grind and grind and grind. It's like a 90-day cycle. You don't get a paycheck, until after it's all said and done, which oftentimes that happens in investing as well. So that's what I did. And I got to another point where I'm looking around and doing these activities as a real estate agent. And I was like, this is not what I was anticipating. It's not what I planned on doing. So that was the big shift. That was the moment that I was like, I have to make a plan. I have to figure this out. Otherwise, like, life is just going to keep happening to me, and I'm allowing this to happen. So it's that I forget who said it. I listen to so many, I listen to Jim Rohn and all those guys, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins. So I forget which one said what, and oftentimes they say similar things. In essence, it's like if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And my thing was really I was, without organizing my days and setting a plan and setting goals, I was allowing other people to set my life, basically.
Absolutely.
So I was working to help other people get rich, basically, or build wealth. Especially when I moved into the real estate space. It's like, and then I started working with investors as an agent, and it just really, I've always had the goal of investing. So I buckled down. I started connecting with investors, did I guess you call it a class, like a group, like a mastermind with investors, with new investors that was led by seasoned investors. And in that class, it just really clicked for me. And it wasn't like that I was hearing anything new information. It was just like I was ready to hear it at that moment. And this was like right when the market was starting to go up. And all the new investors were saying, you can't find a deal out there. You can't find a deal out there. Everybody wants, they think that it's a seller's market. Nobody wants to sell their house. And I just was like, I stayed quiet when everybody was complaining. I'm like, I'm going to get a house somehow. And then everybody said, especially you can't get a house off the MLS. Like, that's just unheard of. That's not happening right now, which it was not very common. But I said to myself, well, I'm in real estate. If it's on the MLS, because I need to make it efficient, because I still have to make money, help my clients and all that. So what I did was I made a plan. I'm going to submit 3 offers every single day. no matter what. If I do nothing else in that day, I'm submitting 3 offers. How am I going to pay for it? What, who, when's going to, all these other questions were not, I didn't get to that point. It wasn't tomorrow when I was under contract where I had to get those answers. You know what I mean? So I was just committing to making 3 offers a day. So I did that. I made 3 offers a day for, it had to be 4 months. I took weekends off. So it was probably 5 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. I'm making 3 offers a day. And of course I get no answer. Sometimes I get an answer and it was like a no, total rejection, until I made a blind offer on a house, and it was a family that owned the house, where somebody had passed. They had been renting it for a while, but it was the original owners that owned the house. The house was built in 1960. And I sent an offer over, and it was for more than I was willing to pay for it, but it was blind offer. So I'm like, I'm going to go over, and then I'm going to, it's not a game. It's not really a game, but we play that, I'm going to make this offer. This is what I would pay for it if it's in the condition that the pictures are telling me it's in, and so on and so forth. So you come to find out the family was getting offers from investors and big companies, and they didn't feel comfortable selling their family home to a big company because they weren't sure, they wouldn't love it like they did, so to speak. So being me as like just a single, I have an LLC, but just, I'm the only member of the LLC. So they kind of trusted me that I was going to do the right thing with their house. Right. So I ended up winning the deal. It helped that I came in about 10,000 over what the other companies were asking. So that did help, but that's how it started. And it was, I said I didn't worry about the money and all that. I had spoken with a ton of hard money lenders. I had some money for down payment, so I had things in line so when it's time to pull the trigger, I could pull the trigger and get all that stuff together. But what I found out is, like, most lenders, they're like, well, when you have a deal, come talk to me. Like, I'm not going to waste my time talking to you now. You don't even have a deal. I'm like, but I need you there when I do have a deal. They're like, well, bring a deal. And so that's a scary part for a lot of new investors. At least it was for me. It's like, I get under contract, and then, like, what if I can't pay for it? And it's like, get out of it and due diligence. I don't know, but there's ways, like, to be scared of that is, I realized that it was just a limiting belief that turned into an excuse, for a long time. So I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but
it's all good, TJ. I'm really, really enjoying the story of it all, because I think it's highly important for our listeners to hear that you didn't enjoy where you were. You didn't like where you were. Mm-hmm. You one day said, hey, I've heard it said, if you want to be a certain thing or a certain person or a certain kind of whatever it is, you got to start acting like it. Fake it till you make it. But I say, you're dressing the part. You'll never be XYZ unless you start acting like XYZ. I'm not great at figuring out who said what either. My wife is really good at it. I'll say, can you believe so-and-so said this? And she's like, no, wrong. This is who said this and this and this. Yeah. But I think it was Jim Rohn that says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm sure the people you started spending all of your time with shifted and changed when you started identifying as someone different, because you want to break up with that old you. That's not you anymore. That you want to say goodbye to that. I'm still a dad. I'm still a husband. I'm still Mr. McGraw, but I am a new version of him. And I'm going to move forward as this new version of me.
Exactly. I know I've listened to the podcast. So I know we're going to talk about books later, but there's a book called Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And really it's that's what it's about. It's like, start having a relationship with your future self. I mean, it sounds woo-woo-y and all this stuff. Like, I'm into meditation. I'll just get that out right now. I like to meditate. I like to visualize. I think it's important. You can actually train your brain. There's like science behind it. You can train your brain with visualization to, like, not trick it, but you can trick it into thinking that these things have already happened and you've already had this success. So then your subconscious, like behind the scenes, your operating system is going to start working to get that feeling again. So your brain doesn't recognize the difference between a memory or a visualization. It's like your subconscious.
Yeah, and it takes away the fear factor.
Yeah, it totally does, because you're training your brain to make connections, and you can do it I mean, you're either working towards your goals or you're working away from your goals. There's no like idle in between. And it's all about how your mind is. I know we talked about mindset. It's like really, if you can train your brain to recognize wins instead of dwelling on the so-called mistakes, or you didn't get a deal, or you if only I had done X, if only I took that stipulation out of that one deal, it would have been mine. Whatever the case may be, or I snapped at my wife. If you dwell in these negative thoughts, then you're going to create more negativity in your life, because your brain is firing into those negative. They're making the negative connections with everything. So, but then if you start waking up in the morning and writing down your wins, or before you go to bed at night, if you write down your 3 wins before you go to bed at night, your mind, your subconscious all night long is thinking about those wins. But if you go to bed worrying, or you go to bed with envy because you're looking on Facebook and you're looking at all these other people with success and deals and all that stuff, then your brain's going to be thinking about that all night. So, and then you wake up in the morning, your mood and your mindset is affected by that 100%. But writing that down, 3 wins, and they're little wins too. Like today, I had a networking lunch with another agent. And so that's a win. I'm calling that a win because it was great. I mean, did we solve any world problems? No, but we had a good connection, and it might open up doors for the future, might not, who knows? But it's a small win, but that's a win nonetheless. So, but I'm not gonna dwell on, that I didn't stub my toe this morning. But if I stub my toe this morning, I'm not gonna dwell on that.
No, I would.
I'm kind of a baby, so at least in front of my wife, I'd be like, oh, it hurts so bad. but you know what I mean. We're not dwelling on these things. It's just training your brain into looking for the positive. And this isn't, to be. You don't have to go out and be positive and be up and all the time, because you're going to be down. You're going to have moments, and you have to kind of mourn your. I don't want to go down a dark road, but you have to kind of mourn your mistakes. You have to feel it. You have to feel the emotions, and then you just gotta go, okay, let's go back to my wins now. So if you try to ignore and stuff them away, then they resurface at moments that you don't want them to resurface. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm going. I can tend to get down a long tangent on this kind of stuff, but.
So TJ, we have a lot in common because I do the same thing. No, I think it's very important. We were on a mastermind call not too long ago with it was in Brandon Turner's mastermind that he's doing, the Better Life Tribe, and we were discussing how often we remind ourselves of things that we didn't achieve, and how rarely we take a look back and say, where was I 5 years ago? Where was I 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Where was I 20 years ago? And when you can start framing how successful you feel versus how successful you may seem to other people, when you can have a conversation with yourself about, well, how far have I come? Because a lot of you listening right now are nothing like who you were last year, are nothing like who you were 5 years ago. You have either grown in some capacity, you have succeeded in some capacity, you have reached some type of goal in some capacity, whether it's to lose weight or gain weight or get in shape or go on a trip or buy something. Everyone has experienced some type of goal, but all that we usually remind ourselves of is, dang, I really wish I had this, or I see this all over Facebook or all over Twitter or wherever you look at social media and say, they have all this stuff and I've been going at it just as hard as them and I don't have anything to show for it. Yes, you do. You have a lot to show for it.
Yeah.
Because you're in a mindset space now to realize that those things are possible, that you are capable and you can achieve that. So just like TJ is explaining, celebrate the wins, mourn the loss, but move on and keep winning. That's important.
Yeah, 100%. Life is full of choices, and not many people realize that your state of mind, your mindset is a choice. You can choose to look at what you have and be thankful, or you can choose to look at what you don't have and be jealous and down on yourself, and the destructive behaviors that come along with that as well.
That's right. Everyone has a choice every day they wake up
Mhm.
on how they're going to react. It is out of your control how someone says something to you or what they say or anything. That is their problem. That is their issue.
Exactly.
You have full responsibility and full control over how you react.
Yeah,
and
most
that's
definitely.
important to understand.
And one thing, I definitely want to get back to my story. We didn't even get into the good meat of the flip, but I try to use social media as a tool for business. And I would recommend it's kind of a necessary evil when you're in business nowadays, and because you have to connect, and that's where people are. That's the easiest way to get in front of people. So you have to use it, but use it intentionally. As an investor, you're going to start your ClickFunnels there. You can connect with people. You can connect with other investors, which is great. There's plenty of groups in there for connecting with other investors and things like that. But once if you catch yourself scrolling mindlessly, and we've all done it, and we've all looked up half hour later and thought it was 2 minutes, and so half hour of your day, an hour of your day is gone, and you didn't really do anything at all.
Right.
So just being intentional about it. I'll go on with the social media every day, just post my stuff. It sounds selfish, but whatever. I got mouths to feed, so I'm going with it. And I'll be intentional about making comments on other people's stuff. I definitely don't like, if you look at my news feed on my social media, there's no negative stuff in there at all. There's barely any political news. I don't get political memes unless one of my friends that I'm following posts something, but that stuff doesn't show up in my feed. It's because I don't give it the time. I don't give it the attention. It used to, because when I was in that state of mind, watching the news every day and clicking on that stuff on social media. But you can train the algorithm in social media to just give you stuff that's positive. And not many people know that, but it's definitely can happen. It's
such an interesting thought, because you can have a benchmark of your success of how you're shifting as a person based on what your Facebook or TikTok feed looks like.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's true though, because those algorithms, there's really smart people working constantly. Their only job is to figure out how to keep you on those platforms longer. And so they're going to feed you what you want to see. And that's, so if you want to see positive stuff, they're going to feed you positive stuff. If you want to see negative, political division, they're going to send you all that stuff. So let's get back to my flip, because let's go. Because I learned a lot, and I definitely want to make sure to talk about that. I got the house. I'm under contract, and we're set to close like 3 weeks later, I think, like that. I got a hard money loan. It was super helpful for me and totally worth it. But we'll talk about that in just a bit. But the closing kept getting pushed back because there were children of somebody that had passed a decade ago, and the way that they were on the deed, it wasn't survivorship. In essence, these children of this deceased person were entitled to a piece of this property, basically. So they had to negotiate, and they ended up paying them off. It was like family members that they didn't really know. And they're like, so as soon as they get that phone call, they're like, ooh, dollar signs. And then I think they ended up having to pay him like $30,000 at the closing table, something like that.
Right. So did they have to probate it?
Yeah, it was. I forget exactly what they called it at the time, but it was in a probate. It's one of the probate issues that get stuck in. It wasn't in probate. It was just doing the title search. It just came up that these people, it's because the gentleman whose kid they were, he had died, like I said, like a decade earlier. So it was all a big surprise. But anyways, so the unexpected things, this is like the first unexpected thing. But the house really spoke to me. It was on a little lake, a private lake for the community. The house was built in 1960, but I think that like mid-century look is kind of cool. It just speaks to me, especially like that, the outside of homes, the architecture of outside of homes. And it was all like not stacked stone. I think it's holiday stone, they call it. cool looking little house it was a 2-bedroom house, but in the tax records it was a 3-bedroom. So here I go. Okay, I don't have to pull permits, and I can just put a wall up and add put the third bedroom back, so to speak. I don't recommend that. That's disclaimer. Like, it'll be much cheaper in the long run if the code enforcement was to come by, see the dumpster in the driveway, and you're in there putting another bedroom in. That could be very expensive and stop work orders and all that stuff. So that's my disclaimer. So don't do as I do, or don't do what I do. Learn from my mistakes. So we ended up doing that. So I got really excited about this. I got my house. It smells. It's got mold in it. One of the rooms was kind of sagging a little bit. It needed a roof. It just needed a lot. It was neglected for quite a while. I had the paneling, the wood paneling in the living room and all that. I did not mean for it to be a full gut, but it kind of, because of my excitement and ambition, I veered from my plan. So lesson number 1 for any new flipper: make a plan and stick to your plan, because if you start changing things when you're going 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, you're going to crash, like, for sure. Luckily for me, like, there was installed guardrails, and I knew that I was going to go over budget going into it. So I had a couple backup plans for it, and I used every single backup plan, just because of my own mistakes. But really, I wasn't going to take down any walls. I was just going to fix the walls, patches, put the wall up for the room. I started thinking about it. I'm like, wouldn't it be great if this was open? Like, the kitchen was open to the living room. Oh, how much does that cost? And okay, let's do that. We can do that. And how long is it going to take? Okay, we can definitely do that. My goal was to get it done in 3 months. Be ambitious, right? I'm going to get this house. It's mostly cosmetic, maybe a little deeper than cosmetic, but I'm going to get it turned around in 3 months, get it sold. It's going to be great. Well, it didn't get done in 3 months. So one thing was my fault. I kept changing stuff. So I kept adding things and making agreements with the person that I hired to do the stuff, who's a great guy, but I think as I was changing things, I think he agreed to things that he wasn't really ready to do or comfortable with doing. So I unintentionally, like, put him in the weeds, put him over his head, and he didn't want to lose the job, so he wasn't 100% upfront about not being able to do all the things that I needed him to do. Anyway, so long story short, I got to a point. And here's one mistake too: get an inspection. I didn't get an inspection. I did not take my own advice, because I would never tell any one of my buyers, if you're an investor or not, to skip an inspection. But if you do it a couple times, that's what I thought. I'm like, I've been to so many inspections. I know what to look for, this and that. I can figure it out. Well, I didn't get an inspection, and it bit me a little bit, because it definitely added. I had surprises in the tune of about $5,000 to $8,000 just because I didn't get an inspection up front. Just things that were kind of obvious that I thought would be obvious, but I didn't see them, because it's not in my lane, so to speak. You do your own inspections?
For the most part, we do our own inspections. Sometimes time is not of the essence. Time is of the essence, so we don't have time to do inspections. But if we're doing a more conventional purchase, we will do an inspection. Yeah.
Gotcha. But I mean, how many deals deep are you in? Like this, on your first deal, like, definitely. I would suggest to build a big enough team around you that
well,
can help
I
guide
will
you.
say this: even on our first deal, we got an inspection, and it did not reveal all the things.
Yeah,
and
you're true. That's another thing too, for sure. Going back into, I'm like changing things, and I'm let's take this wall out, and can you do that? Yeah, definitely, we can do it. Okay, no problem. When can it be done? And then, so what started happening? Nothing was getting done. We got to a point where it was just like the house just kept looking the same. And I'd went away for a long weekend, and I came back, and I was like, there's nothing There's nothing changed. I don't know what has been done. And then he was looking for, a draw, a payout. I'm like, well, I can't now because I got the hard money people are going to be like, nothing's done. So they're not going to give me the draw. So I can't pay you until like stuff is done. And it came down to the point where I realized he didn't have gas money to get over to my house. And I'm like, oh man, this is a disaster. Like, so long story short, he said he was going to hire somebody else to do a lot of the wall mud and the sheetrock, the finishing stuff on the sheetrock and all that. Because that wasn't his expertise, which is, I could see that. But I did, not for nothing, I did ask him several times. I'm like, are you sure? Because I know that it's like, you can be great at construction, you can be great at everything, but like, it's an art. like doing sheetrock and the prep work to paint it's an art form. And I watch guys do it. I'm like, how in the world, A, do you do it so quick, and B, how it's like smooth. Like I've tried to do it a few times, and it looks like like somebody threw a rock into a pond.
I am no good at it.
Yeah. Getting back to the story, it came to the point where it was like, listen, I'm gonna give you $300, or I'm gonna give you $100 right now. I'm gonna Venmo you $100. Put gas in your van, come over to the house, grab your tools, hook up your trailer, and as you're driving out the driveway, I'll Venmo you the rest of the $200. And I did that. Not that I didn't trust him, but emotions were a little bit high in that moment. And so everything was, nobody was tempted to do anything, and I don't believe he would have, but I mainly needed him to come in as quickly as possible, get this stuff out of the house. Well, so here I am now. I got the term of the loan is 6 months, and I'm in month 5 right now. The end of 4 going into month 5. So I got 1 month and the house is not going to be ready. So I quickly get another guy to come in, and a recommendation from one of my agents actually on my sales team. He was a good guy, does great work, but I don't know why drama just entered itself into this house. But so this guy ended up, his wife found out that he had been doing extracurricular activities with the neighbor, and so he started to go through divorce proceedings. And so of course my flip house is not top his priorities at that point. I know it's all comical when you think about it, but it was pretty stressful at the time. But we got it done. I ended up running out of money at that point, and completely out of money. I mean, I had some, but if I spent that, then I wouldn't have had my own house to live in. So tapped out. So I made a deal with him. I'm like, listen, I need this work done. I said, but I can't. You're charging this, because it ended up being about another $4,000 on top of my budget that we haven't even talked about. That whole switch cost was added about $4,000. So I told him, like, I'll give you $2,000 now. I ended up giving him, I forget what it was that I told him I'd pay him, but I doubled what the amount, the balance of what I owed him. I doubled it, and I said, the only catch is you got to wait till I close on the house, and then I'll pay you double of the remainder of the balance. And he was like, cool, that works. Because I want to say it was $2,000 to $3,000. So he was fine with that. Now I kind of got ahead of myself here, but we ended up getting it done. I went 2 months over the 6 months. So here I am thinking I'm going to get it done in 3 months. It takes me 8 months. So I had to, and I know most of your listeners know about hard money loans and the term 6 months. You can extend them, but it costs you money to extend them. So that was an expense that went over. So it got a little expensive. My original budget for rehab was $40,000, and I could have totally stayed pretty close to that. There was a few surprises. So I'll go off one more tangent, and then we'll get back to the numbers. But I had an HVAC guy come, and he goes and he opens up it had like a basement and a crawl space. Mm-hmm. The furnace was in the crawl space. He opens up the door. He goes, we can't even touch this. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, we call this the bomb. Because apparently this furnace is known for exploding like randomly. I'm like, the bomb, come on. So that was an expense I didn't think of. I got a whole new HVAC system put in. It wasn't a huge house, so it was $7,000 to $8,000 for the whole thing. And I didn't anticipate spending that money, but it was a good price for it. So and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to sell the house with a bomb in the cellar or in the basement. So from the Northeast, we call them cellars up there. But yeah, so that was interesting and stressful and all that. But so I had budgeted $40,000 for the rehab. Now, mind you, this is in 2021 when I bought it. So this is at the time when all the construction materials was going up and up and up and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
So the roof, I budgeted about, I don't know, 8,000 for the roof. That was about 11,000. And it was like everything that I was buying was like just a little bit more money than I anticipated because of because construction price, the materials just went up in price so fast, as we all remember. The only thing that saved me on that was the materials were going up, but the home values were also going up. So I knew that I was going to be all right on the other end because I'm thinking, okay, value's going up. It's going up at a rapid pace. So I think I'm going to be all right on the other end. But right now, it's not helping me right now because I got a budget here. I got to stick to. I ended up spending $70,000 on the total rehab, so I'm about $30,000 over budget, which was I had anticipated going over, and I gave myself probably about 20 grand for mistakes, and I went 30. So it is what it is. It was a very stressful time. I mean, I went into this with a plan, and I completely derailed myself and went willy-nilly on it. I always had a mind on the numbers for my flip house, but I forgot to pay my gas bill in my own house. And they send a notice. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to take care of that. But then I'm like so wrapped up in this flip house, and like my real estate sales dipped. Like it was all consuming for me because I didn't build a team like I should have built a team, and that really bit me in the thick of it because it was all on me, like paying the bills, managing the work, getting other people to come in. We had to like lift part of the garage that was sinking a little bit, so we had to I did some poly foam in there. The roofer, getting all these people together. I mean, I was essentially acting as the contractor, which was before I went into it, I'm just like, I'm just going to write checks and cash big checks. That's all. Yeah. That's all the work I'm going to do is my hand and write checks and cash checks. Well, that's not that not end up being what I did. So it was all consuming. So in hindsight, with all that, if one thing I can tell anybody that's listening that's going to get into this, don't be afraid to do it. First of all, because it was totally worth it. No matter how I was feeling in it and doing it, I was learning so much, and it was totally worth it. And I just took the action because I'll analyze, I'll overanalyze, and I'll analyze with everything, not just real estate. With like, if I'm going to buy a new phone, I just pulled the trigger on buying a new phone, but I had to like think about it. And I've had this spot on my lens, damage on my lens for about a year and a half. And I finally got to the point where I'm ready to buy a new phone now. So with buying the house, like when I committed to making the 3 offers a day, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take action. Like, what's the worst that could happen? My family's still going to love me. I'm not going to die. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to lose my house because I think I have have other money coming in. So that's really not a scare. Like, could I hurt my credit? Probably. I could. Yeah, my credit could get some dings on it for sure. But is that the worst thing that could ever happen? No, because that's fixable. It's fixable with time. So I'm not saying go and run up your credit cards and do all that, but I maxed out all of my credit cards on this build, and I mean I was right to the point of desperation at that point at the end of the 8 months. And so because of that, I ended up like pricing the house to sell. Like I'm like, I have to sell this house. I was going to list it for $260 and wait and see what happened. Hopefully get a little bit more and I get a bidding war, because that's when all that was like starting to happen. And the next door neighbor, their son like lived in the basement in the next door, and he had looked at the house prior when it was in complete distress, but he has the FHA loan, so the FHA loan wasn't gonna cover this house, so he ended up not buying it. So he would come over and talk to me, and he's like, oh yeah, I wanted to buy the house and this and that, and I'm like, oh great, well if you like FHA, it's definitely gonna go FHA now. I fixed all those problems, no worries. So he ended up buying the house, and I told him it'd be $250, and we ended up getting a deal done. I had it coming soon, but we were under contract like right before the day I was supposed to go live on the market. The house appraised at 265. So had I not been desperate and not made those little mistakes, those tiny things that led up to me going extra and running out of money and being desperate at the end, we ended up getting under contract for 247. And then there was a couple things that I'd realized that I didn't have the money to finish up. The attic needed some more spray insulation in there, sprayed, and then one of the, I don't know how I didn't realize this prior, but the fans in the bathrooms were venting into the attic, and I was like, man, I can't. And the inspector did not pick up on it. So his inspector wasn't the greatest inspector. We'll just put it that way, because it was pretty obvious. You stick your head out there, you're like, oh my God, the fans are venting into the attic. So I, in good conscience, could not sell a house with fans venting into the attic, because you just get all the mold's going to come back in the bathroom, and I just didn't want that. I didn't want that on my conscience. Number one, I didn't want it to come back around and cost me more money in the long run. I just wanted to make sure to make it right. So I said, listen, you need some insulation in the attic, and I'm realizing that the fans are just venting directly into the attic, and you can get moisture problems and all that stuff. So I'm going to give you $5,000 in seller concessions at closing. He's like, oh, great. Well, then then I had like a septic inspection come out. They opened up the tank, and it was one of those companies that I think they just tell everybody they need a new septic tank. They're like, you need a new septic tank, and I'm like, no, that's not.
Not
like,
happening.
if I need a septic tank, you might as well like put me in the septic tank and bury me in the septic tank. But it wasn't. I mean, the county didn't even have the map of the septic tank. It was original septic tank, one of those old concrete ones from the 60s. But it was concrete. It was working. It wasn't leaking. It was fine. So I'd had another company come out and gave me a clean letter. And the seller or the buyer had a company come out, looked at it. Everybody was fine with it. But that was a little hold your breath for a few days there on that one. But it all worked out. So in the end, after acquisition at 120, closing costs and construction insurance, holding costs, I saved on my commission because I'm an agent, so I didn't have to pay the half, the 3% for me. It's all negotiable, but I did pay 3% to the buyer's agent, even though I'm the one that procured the buyer. But I have to work with agents in the market, so for goodwill, I did and that was about $7,500, and then the seller concessions at $5,000. But I ended up making about between $30,000 and $35,000 after or before taxes, but I still have to pay taxes on that. And it was like the day I closed, it was like such I hadn't breathed like that in 8 months. I was like, oh my God, I did it. Look out. I went and I immediately like paid off, everything, and everybody got paid off. And I paid the contractor that I told him I was going to pay him double. I met him at a gas station and handed him a wad of cash. It was crazy. But yeah, so that's the story. It was fun. I mean, in hindsight, the biggest things is like you really have to do your due diligence. And I thought I was doing that, but I got excited and I let my ego get to me a little bit. Like, I'm a real estate, I do this all the time. A couple things just came up, and then changing things in the middle, making sure that you have a solid team, I think is important. Like I thought I could just do it all myself, and just doing. I mean, I'm sure that if I did my next one, if I was going to do it myself, but if I'm not, I would be better at it. I'd be more efficient at it. I mean, I have systems for my real estate team, for my sales. I have systems when buyer leads come in all the way up to the closing, when seller leads come in all the way up to closing. So I was like, well, I'll just make the systems as I go. Well, it's too late by that point. Like at least have an idea of the system. I mean, you make a plan and things are going to happen. It's not going to go according to plan at all, because nothing ever does. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have an initial like plan to begin with, it's challenging. We'll put it that way. So having a team around you, and when I say team, like you don't have to like hire W-2 employees to like work for you and all that stuff, but have interview some contractors, because a lot of contractors I talked to, they just didn't have the time. They didn't want to. I was small potatoes. They didn't want to deal with me. But there are contractors that will and be happy to and see the potential in a relationship. I had relationships with closing attorneys and things like that. So that was helpful. But just, I mean, hire a virtual assistant to help you with just like keeping track of receipts. Like that was one of the biggest headaches. Well, A, I shouldn't have been running to Home Depot every 10 minutes. And B, like keeping track of receipts. Like I thank God for Home Depot Pro account, because you can just go online and like go back, like, what did I buy? What did I spend on all the materials? So I ended up buying most of my stuff from Home Depot. But yeah, that was but just little things that you learn, like the hard money. So I was, nobody explained to me that the work had to actually be done. Like I couldn't just buy the materials and then give the material receipts. They want to see it actually installed. Which makes sense, because I bought flooring and I bought a couple other things. I just dropped it off at the house. I'm like, hey, go have at it, get it done. And I went to get a draw, and they're like, well, do you have pictures of it done? I'm like, well, no, it's not installed yet, so the pictures look the same, but I can send you a picture of the piled up boxes of flooring. They're like, oh no, that doesn't work like that. But luckily, like, she felt bad for me or something, because she ended up giving me the draw, so I could keep moving forward. But it was fun. It was definitely an interesting time. What a learning experience. And even if I can tell you this right now, like I was fortunate enough, and I had enough wits about me to like not lose money. And I got a good deal on the house to begin with, and I was fortunate because I knew the market was going up in value, so I hung on to it. But had I lost money, I still think it would be worth it because of the schooling that I got doing it. You know, like it's priceless. You can go to school and learn. You can go to an investment seminar, and they can teach you step 1, give you all the systems, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way up to the end. And then once you go to do it, there's things that come up that just no one can fathom that are going to come up, or it just can't be, all of it just can't be covered in any seminar or even like years of schooling on the subject. There's just, with houses or houses, they're all different. and the land is different, and thousands and thousands of different human beings were the ones that built the house. So, you know, there's all these variables. But so I think that if I lost money on it, I would still look at it as a great experience because of everything that I learned and what's going to be done differently. One of the biggest things I learned is that I don't want to flip houses. My next venture is to get rentals. I think buy and hold is definitely the way to go, because I flipped this house, and that was it. I had one check from it. So, and it was a headache, and it's harder to build wealth if you're just flipping, but it has its purpose for sure. And if it makes sense to do it, but I think if you're going into a house having like your number one goal for an exit strategy, and then thinking of the backup plans as well.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I did do. I looked into keeping it in the early stages, but when I started running out of money, and I just needed to unload it. I needed a big injection of cash to get back whole. And so that's what ended up happening. But the next time around, it'll definitely be with the intention of keeping it, and it's not going to be as big of a rehab either. And really, if it's something that cash flows, if I'm paying market value for it, if it's going to cash flow, that's fine. You know, so my whole perspective on what is a good deal and what's not has certainly changed after that.
No doubt, man. So much to unpack there. What an incredible. Yeah. I'm just in my head visualizing the things that I've experienced in my renovations, and I'm like, wow, this is so, you know, every story about a renovation, they all kind of seem to run parallel, especially when it's on your first couple that you do. It's like, wow, yep, I've been there. That happened to me. I've had to put in the septic tank. Yep, I've had to do this. Yeah. No, I've never had anyone tell me there's a bomb air conditioner furnace in the furnace. Yeah, space.
that was the biggest surprise.
Yeah, that's never happened to me. But you know, how powerful though is that story to prove, you know, just that mission of just get up and do it. Just if you want to be a flipper, go flip a house. yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably gonna suck. And at times you're gonna want to wish you're probably gonna wish that you'd never done it. And then that just clears something up. Hey, I thought I wanted to be a flipper. Hey, I am not a flipper, but I
Yep.
enjoy buying houses and I enjoy the idea of passive income. So let's shift. I have all this knowledge on houses now. I'm going to
Hmm.
shift that. I'm still going to renovate houses, but it's going to be to make them rentals. And there's just a wonderful story, a motivating story for our listeners to, if you're out there and you're thinking, man, I'd like to get started, but I just can't do it. You can.
Yeah.
The only thing that's in your way is you. You can do it.
Yeah, it really is. It is that easy. I mean, it's work. Like, like you better not be afraid of work. And whether it's, I don't recommend doing all the work yourself, but if that's the field you're in, then yeah, do it. It's going to be work, but it's going to be emotionally taxing. It's going to be a lot of figuring stuff out, problem solving, finding money, moving money, finding material, surprises. Like that's the work. It'll be hard work, but it is, if you make the decision to do it, it's easy. You just
Yeah.
do it, make the decision, and then go with it.
Right. So, what do you think, if you could put a word on it, or maybe a few words on it, what was your main motivation when you first got started? Like when you decided, hey, I'm done cooking, I'm done living this life, I'm ready to break up with old TJ and date this new TJ and be this new TJ. What was your main motivation?
100% honesty, money. I'm not ashamed to say it, but this is how I view money, though. Money is not the source of happiness. It's a tool for happiness. So, like, just the things that I could do with my family, with financial freedom and more money coming in, I would maybe get 3-5% raise every year after I was like put through the gauntlet of the employee evaluations. Like, I hated that. There's nothing more. I felt, I was kind of humiliated by it. Like, okay, like, I'm in the trenches every day making you money, and you're gonna sit down and tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong and all the reasons why you can't pay me, 8%. So that's what I hated. So I wanted to be able to look in the mirror every morning, and like that guy I saw was the only one that was deciding how much money I was going to make.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, that was the big one. So a lot of it was selfish. I don't really think selfishness isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm an Ayn Rand fan. I don't know if selfishness is a virtue. She wrote a book called, but you have to take care of yourself, and you got to take care of yourself first. And it's a cliche, but put your mask on before you help the person next to you, in the airplanes. That's a procedure on an airplane for a reason, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you are worthless to everybody else around you. So
That's right.
really, that was it. And I was gone all the time. I wasn't, I was missing sporting events from the kids, and I was missing dinner. And there was like a running joke when my youngest was very small and she was just learning how to talk, and she was counting, learning how to count. And they'd be sitting my wife and my two daughters would be sitting at the dinner table, and they would count the chairs, 1, 2, 3. And then my youngest would go, "We're missing one." So it's a big joke. No, we still say it now, like 9 years later. We're missing one. So, but it's funny, but it wasn't funny. It was like, yeah, you are missing one. And that's not cool. So I do believe that if I stayed in the restaurant business, I would be divorced right now. And it's not, my wife is a wonderful, most understanding person that I have ever met in my entire life. But everybody has limits, you know what I mean? And I think I would have limits, because if I'm in a horrible, rotten place, I'm not taking care of myself, there's no way I could take care of her or the family. So that was all the motivating, really when I had enough of just this eye opening, like, I got to do something now because I'm running out of time. I calculated it the other day. I only have, like, going on like the average age, the average life expectancy. I have about 12,000 something days left, something like that.
That's a little morbid.
That sounds morbid, but if you think about it this way, once you have like an end date, it's like when before you go on vacation, you're like, oh, I got all this stuff I got to do before I go on vacation, and you work really efficiently and you get it done. Well, so if you kind of if you think about like, I mean, it's just a fact of life. We're not gonna be here forever.
That's
But
right.
if you put a number on it, you're like, oh man, I better get that Airstream I've been wanting to get.
That's
That
right.
kind
No, right. It is a positive thing. One thing I'd challenge you on TJ, this is something that we teach in our Dream Life University, and that is like the why and then the real why. And
Mhm.
you've already said it all. Your why is the money, but
Mhm.
really the real why is you don't want your daughter to have to say we have one missing. You know
Yeah.
that that
Yep.
that kind of like tugs at my heart a little bit because I
Yeah.
I don't want my son to grow up and count the chairs and say, oh, there's one missing.
We're
And
missing one. Yeah.
it's a sad thing that
Yeah.
there's a lot of folks out there to where they're not eating dinner with their families because they are married to their jobs. They're
Mhm.
married to that income because they're dependent on that income. How beautiful would it be if they could replace some or all of their income to where they wouldn't have to be absent?
Yeah.
That's what a powerful statement, a story that, well, it motivates me to keep going forward. I hope it motivates our listeners too.
Yeah.
Mm,
It was a playful game
mhm.
for my daughter. It's in my family. I mean, nobody really thought too deeply about it. I was the one that kind of had it inside, like, oh man, yeah, it's cute and all, but like that's kind of that's kind
Yeah.
of stinks that not I'm coming because I would work late at night. When you're in the restaurant business, you're working when everybody else is playing.
Yeah.
So, and my wife is a nurse and she works during the day, so I would leave for work about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would get home around midnight, 1 o'clock. So I would rarely see her unless it was a day off. And I wasn't there when the kids got home from school. I wasn't there for dinner. And now I'm like 2:30. My daughter gets off the bus. I'm standing there waiting for her,
That's right.
unless I get
That's
on
a
a phone
beautiful thing.
call. I'm on a phone call, but I'm in the yard at least, like looking for her.
That's right.
So, but yeah, it's
That's
such a great feeling. I'm so thankful that I can do that now, and it's
yeah,
because
it's
of the choices.
amazing.
And have I arrived? Am I like I'm not? I drive a Kia Forte hatchback. Like I'm not. I'm not rolling Land Rovers or anything, you know what I mean? But what I do have, the things that I am rich in are like they're priceless to me.
That's
It's
abs-
amazing.
yeah, that's absolutely right. I
Hmm.
think that's amazing. So when you first got started and you're like, I'm gonna go, I know I want to do real estate, I'm gonna flip this house, did you
Hmm.
have a plan? Did you have it laid out? And if you didn't, that's fine. We call it a roadmap here at On
Hmm.
Purpose Investor. And that roadmap is like a detailed description of what your path, what your life looks like in the next
Hmm.
3 years. Did you have something like that put together?
Yeah, yes, 100%. And that's really what, if I didn't have that, I would never would have started because
Hmm.
I like to read and like the 7 Habits, Stephen Covey, that's a
Hmm.
big one. Start with the end in mind. So, as a matter of fact, I have a journal that I have the front of it's a vision board. So I've got like little pictures cut out and then it's like 10 to 15 years from now and then 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year from now. And then I operate in like 12 week periods because I'm also a fan of the 12-week year. If you've ever read that,
I have
it's,
not read that one.
it's a really good book. It just, I forget the author. I'm embarrassed to say, but the concept behind it is we all like corporations will not as productive until they get towards the end of the year when they got to meet all their numbers, and then bang, they have the best quarter of the whole year is at the end of the year. But
Yeah.
what if you just treated each quarter like 1 year and condense it into 1 year? Like think of how fast and how
Yeah.
productive you can be. I'm not
And,
doing it
I think
justice,
that's
but
probably driven by some type of hyper intentionality. If
yeah,
you're
it's
just being
exactly right. Mhm.
super intentional,
Yep,
results come.
exactly. That's what it is. So I had to go. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to be, and I knew that real estate and investing in real estate was a way to do that. Was a way to get
Hmm.
there. And I have a plan, for just about everything else in life that going into buying the house. It was for me. I'm an over planner, so in order for me to take action, I had to kind of throw that out the window, which was really hard. Not that I didn't plan at all. I always kept an eye on the money. I knew exactly where the last dollar was with that line, and and I and I went right to it. Put it that way.
Hmm.
But I knew where it was at all times. But it was the systems and the things that I didn't have in place, and And the countless trips that I didn't even include the gas that I probably spent on driving back and forth to Home Depot. So that plan, the minutia of it was kind of off the hip, but I knew the money was always like that was, I always kind of kept track of that.
Right.
So
No, and I think that's great. Without that detailed roadmap, usually, if you get in the car and you have no idea where you're driving, you're just going to aimlessly drive. And a lot of people do that with their lives. There was a study done, don't know where it came from. I know I read it on a website somewhere that wasn't Wikipedia, so it's likely to be somewhat decently honest. But the majority of people on this earth plan for a birthday party or some type of wedding event or something like that. They spend more time planning something like that than they ever do planning their life. And it's such a shocking factor. It is a shocking factor because all it takes is just a little intentionality of saying, all right, let's sit down for, an hour every once a month, even just once a month. Let's sit down for an hour and say, hey, here's what I'd like to accomplish this year or next year or the next 3 years. Hey, at the end of this first year, if we want to make it to where we say we want to be in year 3, what if we kind of back into that? And in this first quarter, these first 3 months, let's try to work toward that goal. And that's literally all it is. It's just planning out and then backing into what are your actionable steps that you can take. And those small little things make such a huge impact. And it just takes a decision. You just have a decision to make. Are you going to sit down and do it?
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I spend probably about 50%, but 50% of my working time is planning. That's it. Because if I don't, then I'm busy. I'm always busy, but I might not be productive whatsoever. So it's always like, I got a plan, and I know if like, sometimes it'll be a Sunday and I'm like, I'm tired. I don't feel like thinking about tomorrow. I'll just do it in the morning. And that whole week is like, I'm a mess the whole week. I mean, it feels like it to me. I'm a mess the whole week, but it's because you got to line up, you got to put your ducks in a row, and you got to at least plan on what you're going to win tomorrow. Like, reflect on your wins from today, but then plan on tomorrow what you're going to win.
That's right. Absolutely.
The wins might not be the same wins that you planned on, but you'll get wins if you're just operating in that mindset of like, gotta get this done. And it was all going back to the 3 offers a day. Like, I'm making 3 offers a day. That's just what I'm planning to do until something happens, and it happened. So I managed to buy a house off the MLS in the middle of it all when nobody said you could do that. So
that's right. And I'll be honest with you, the majority of the houses my wife and I own, Tiffany and I, we bought them off the MLS. We have a handful of houses that we own or have flipped that were, word of mouth or door knocking or, cold calls. But the majority of our stuff came off the MLS. It is possible. We're entering, it's January of 2023 right now, and we're slowly entering a market where you're going to start seeing them come on the MLS again. And we've gone and looked at a few just very recently and are making offers again. So don't be shy to get on the MLS. Just know what your buy box is, know exactly what you need to buy for your portfolio, and start making offers like TJ. I mean, you killed it making those offers. Not a lot of people would do that.
Well, I have a system, and we, like I said before, being a real estate agent, I have access to the MLS, and I have transaction software that's like connected to the MLS. So it was just like I plugged the MLS number in, tax ID, everything, legal descriptions all filled out. So I just had to copy and paste my stipulations. So I had a system for making offers. Yeah. Copy and paste my stipulations in there, and then sign it, send it off. And as we get back into the opportunities down the MLS, like, I hope you don't get anybody unsubscribing because you had a realtor on your show. Because I know there's a certain feeling towards real estate agents from sometimes from investors.
Well, if someone in my listening group feels a certain way about realtors, that is their problem and not ours. So, and if they need to unsubscribe, I fully encourage them to go ahead and hit the unsubscribe button.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, but it's true though, because there are shitty agents out there. and
Mhm.
they do a shitty job for people. There's a statistic that like 80% of the real estate agents that have their license today will leave the business within 5 years.
Yeah.
They'll just be gone
It's
just because they don't know what they're doing, and they're not going to take the time to learn.
mhm.
So they really, like, I work with some investors, and it's a system. It's just take the MLS, plug it in, copy and paste, like have a Word document with all the stipulations that are specific to your investor, and just paste them in, send it off, like
That's right.
every day to just get into a system. And so, speaking to the investors out there that don't have their license, or hiring other people to do this stuff for them, find an agent. An agent should be a bird dog for you, and not worry about making any money when you buy that property. Like, hey, I found this house. They need cash. They got to get out of it right away. They're about to get foreclosed. Like, introduce you. Great. Handshake, like when you flip it and sell it, like thinking me to list it, that kind of thing. Like, it's all a
Absolutely.
relationship. And doing comps. Like, I got a guy, so he buys off the MLS. I haven't sold him a house in a year and a half. He calls me once a month to run comps for him. Sure, no problem. Absolutely. So you got to find agents that are willing to work for you, like make the deposits, so to speak, so that,
Mhm.
because in the long run, I like to think that most people are kind and are decent. So
Yeah.
they'll remember you for doing that kind of stuff.
And when you find that agent, be loyal. As an investor to the agent, we have been like married to our agent for the past 4.5 years, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many deals have been won because of him. Him going to
Yeah.
bat for us. Him, understanding what our needs are and getting up there on it. And then, when we buy off market deals that we're gonna flip, we tell him, hey, we love everything that you do for us. So I
Mhm.
mean, we could easily just go FSBO, for sale by owner, these flips, but man, you help us so much. We're going to give it to you. And you know what? Go
Yeah.
ahead and take like 4% commission. I don't care. Just do it. And we trust you. And we just put it
Yeah.
in his hands, and we trust that he sells it. And he does a great job. And the way you're describing the relationship between realtors and investors should be, it's spot on. It's a symbiotic relationship. Investors out there, don't take advantage of them. Don't waste their time. Don't drag them around and ask them to make silly offers that are stupid, because you should know better, and listen to the advice of the realtor. If you're out there saying, oh, I want to offer 50,000 under, just because I said so, God knows it'll never get accepted. Don't waste their time, and they won't waste yours. I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship, and there's a
Yeah.
lot there's a lot of money to be made in that relationship, and there's a lot of growth that can happen through that relationship as well.
Yeah. 100%. And even, I mean, as an investor going, I mean, I'm biased, but going for sale by owner, like, there's costs involved with that. There's time.
Mhm.
That's what we do as agents. Like, all the marketing, that's what we do. So
That's right.
yeah, you can definitely go for sale by owner, but it goes back to, like, are you trading your time for money, or
Hmm.
are or could you be out finding another deal while you're trusting an agent, or you hire staff to do it, but there's still money coming out of your pocket, or time coming out of your
Right.
pocket, one way or another.
Right.
So just trust the person that does it
You are
every day.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
absolutely right,
That's my
TJ.
that's my my plug for working with real estate agents.
There
but
you
but
go.
find the right one, though. Don't work with a shitty one. There are a lot of shitty agents out there, and
Mhm.
I mean, ask them the questions. Like, they should definitely know what, I don't know what the 1% rule is. They should definitely know what cap rate is, and they should
Mhm.
definitely know the 70% rule. Like, they should know all this stuff.
Yeah.
You can teach them if they know the basics, and they're a hustler, then you can teach them what your needs are, because all investors are all looking for something different.
Right. And if you're an agent out there listening to this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be a better realtor for my investor people out there,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna give out TJ's information a little bit later in the show on how to reach out to him, and I'm sure he would be absolutely thrilled to just help you out, but make it symbiotic. Offer him something, and I say that because I like it when there's always a give, not a give
Yeah.
take
Well,
relationship.
there are ways to partner with me, and no, I'll just throw that out there. But, well,
There
if
we
anybody's
go.
interested, certainly reach out.
Well, TJ, this has been an insanely great show. I've enjoyed
Thank you.
hearing about your experience. Just so much to be learned in that experience. What we're going to do now is we're going to get into our Fast Five. These are
All
our
right.
final 5 questions, and we're going to get through them quick. Just everything that you might be able to share with our listeners today. So, what advice would you give to investors trying to get started today?
Yeah, just do it. Just make offers. Like literally just make offers. I mean, and when I say make offers, like you call people up and say, "Hey, I want to buy your house." Like take action. Take action every day towards your goal of buying a house.
Amen to that. Number 2, do you have any YouTube or podcast shows that you would recommend to our listeners? And I know I mentioned you do have one. His is the
Yes.
Agent Mind podcast, but
Yep.
it could be yours if you refer it. However, is there anything else out there?
Yeah, well, I'll do mine, which is of course I'm gonna do the Agent Mind podcast. Now I put a pin in it because, and then we didn't even talk about this as far as mindset and productive goes, but I stripped away everything in my business to just focus on growing one particular aspect of my business. So like all my
Absolutely.
money and time is going into that, and it's the best thing I ever did. So I put a pin in the podcast, but I'm going to be picking that up next quarter of this year. It's going to be rolling again, but I have a year worth of episodes in once a week. So there's almost 52 episodes. I have investors on there. There's a lot of mindset stuff. I have agents starting a team, things like that. So it's definitely, it's a real estate podcast, but it's more, I mean, it's called the Agent Mind because it's really focusing on mindset is my main thing there. So it's good.
Beautiful.
But podcasts, mindset wise, everybody's probably heard of Ed Mylett. Like I'm a huge fan of Ed Mylett, and the guests that he has on, most of them are pretty awesome. So that's going away from real estate because we can get so involved sometimes listening to real estate stuff that it's refreshing to hear another perspective from outside of it. That's
Right.
positive.
Absolutely. Was there anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I could go on all day long, but we got to end it sometime, right?
Number 3, if you had to pick one book, TJ, that made you feel the biggest impact on your life, what would that book be?
Oh, these are tough. That's a tough question. Recently, the Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. If you haven't read it, it is a total game changer. As an agent and in real estate in general, you get rejected every single day. So it's very easy to get down in the dumps and I'm not good enough. Why did I ever think I was going to do this? No one wants to give me money to buy a house. Nobody wants, all these negative thoughts start creeping because of the rejection that's just inherent with the job. Book, The Gap and the Gain, is the fix to that. And I alluded to a lot of stuff that's in that book, as we've talked here, but it's really about writing down your 3 wins at the end of the day. That's just like the tip of the iceberg of what Dan Sullivan in general, like Who Not How.
Oh yeah.
If you've read that book, that's a good one. Dan Sullivan's the man.
Yeah, the excellent book recommendations there. That Gap in the Gain is one that I'm currently in right now.
Yeah.
And just that, celebrating how far you've come.
Yes.
And that's the gain versus the gap of where you're trying to get. And just there's a lot to be learned in there.
Yeah,
to treat yourself better, to talk to yourself better.
Yep. Because everything you listen to, even the motivational stuff, even like the self-improvement and the positive stuff, is like, where are you headed? Where are your goals? Where's that gap? And I've even heard like really gurus, quote gurus, say like you have to think of that gap and that's what motivates you. But that's not really, doesn't really work for everybody.
Right.
Like if I stay in that like what I don't have, I'm like, oh man, am I ever going to get this? Am I ever going to get there?
Amen to that, man. So number 4, what do you feel has been the secret sauce to your success?
My wife is the first thing that pops into my head. My wife, absolutely, hands down. It's important to align yourself with people in general. People in your life, you need to be aligned with what you're trying to do. They might not understand you all the time, but at least they're supportive, and they got your back.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So certainly Her. I mean, I could get.
I would. I would steal your answer there because there's no way I could have made it here without my wife Tiffany. No chance.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, mentioned before, I really believe that I would probably be divorced if I stayed in the restaurant business, and I never left there. So
it's wise to be in touch with those things to understand those things.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that. So number 5, how can our listeners get in touch with you to follow you on your journey or reach out and hear you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Agent Mind podcast is still up there. It's on all the streaming services that I know of anyway. And that's going to be picking back up. So stay tuned. There's more episodes coming for that. I'm going to revamp it. The episodes are going to be shorter, and it's going to be good. My Instagram game is finally starting to come alive. So I think Instagram, I'm going to throw that out there right now. It's TJ McGraw _realtor. That's my Instagram handle. And TikTok, the same thing. I'm just trying to get, bear with me. I'm still looking for those good videos, but I think I'm going to have some good information coming out.
Absolutely. And
trying to get my real game and short form video game going.
Well, I look forward to watching these videos. I tried my hand at it, and then I decided to go ahead and just leave it to the people that are really good at that. I'm going to focus on some other things. But y'all, all of his contact information and any book or anything that we've talked about in this whole episode is going to be in our show notes. So if there was something and you're driving, you're like, I wish I could have wrote that down. Let me tell you, it's probably in the show notes. We have a wonderful production team. Her name is Erin. She does a fantastic job helping us out. So if you give shout outs on our podcast listener app, whatever you might listen to, and you leave a review, give a shout out to our awesome production team. Her name is Erin. All right, y'all. This has been a great time. This has been an awesome episode. TJ, I have thoroughly enjoyed this.
Me too.
Some great laughs, some deep-hearted moments, some good feels, and ultimately just a great learning experience for our listeners.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad I could help, even if I help just one person.
That's right. That's right. It's I don't know if you're a religious person, but the 99 versus the 1. It's very important to find that one, chase them down and help them. So
definitely.
Amen to that. All right, y'all. It's been great. It's been real. It's been fun. I look forward to having you back next week on the On Purpose Investor podcast. I'm Eric, and we are out. Are you ready to discover and build your dream life? Then it's time to become a Pathfinder. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tips and tricks to help you find your path and get the latest from our blog. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review on your favorite podcast app. If you're enjoying this show, share it with friends, family, and fellow investors. See you next time at the On Purpose Investor Podcast.